The Odessia, semi-lunar episode, the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Books.
Are you sure you can give a lonely book a good home, miss?
The book shelter clerk asked, peering down at her over-ears glasses.
Owning a book is a great responsibility, and you have no idea how many times someone adopts a book with the best of intentions and then is shocked to find out that it is changing her life, and the next thing you know, it is weeping and frantic by the side of the road begging for its owner to take it back. I tell you, I have worked at this book shelter for years, and I've never understood this heartlessness. Anyone with half a brain should know that a book is a messy, difficult thing to own. You have to care for it, carry it around, give it a comfortable place on a shelf, and who knows what chaotic ideas might leap out at you from its pages. A book can have you crying one moment, laughing the next, and what a mess it can make in your life if it tells you something you always knew but were afraid to admit to yourself.
"Oh yes, I understand," Odessa exclaimed, as a particularly beautiful book in her backpack came to mind. "You can count on me to take good care of a book." The clerk looked into the distance, shook his head, and gave out something between a grunt and a sigh. He fixed his gaze on Odessa and continued.
Just be sure you're ready for the responsibility. That's all I'll say. The last thing I want is to hear that a book from here has been recovered from a ditch, crying its story and gathering mold. It breaks my heart to think that someone could do that. It's just the most...
He trailed off into an ill-tempered mumble that soon petered out. Odessa waited quietly for his train of thought to come to a halt. Trousers hopped up on the desk and placed himself face to face with the clerk. "I can vouch for this woman," he declared. "She is as reliable a book owner as I've ever seen, and would care for a book as she would a cat, or even, help me, a dog." The clerk's irritation eased, and although he addressed her with a bureaucrat's severity, there was warmth in his voice.
"Well, in that case, I will accept your companion's approbation."
He snapped out a form, scribbled officiously, and stamped it with the air of a shotgun reload.
"The entrance to the reading dome is to your right. Please follow the walkway. Do not step off or climb on the bookshelves. It will lead you whither you need, and once you have returned, you will need to fill out another form if you wish to return."
"Thank you. I will do as you say."
"Mind you do,"
his voice called out after her.
"Every book has a soul, and many of them need healing."
"What a passionate book lover," Odessa said to Trousers. "His heart is in the right place." "I suppose you're right, Trousers, as always." The entrance to the reading dome slid open, and as Odessa stepped onto the walkway, she was greeted by a cacophony of books shouting out to her, each one imploring her to hear its story. "It is a truth universally acknowledged. All happy families are alike. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was a bright cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Odessa looked up and around. She and Trousers were in a cylindrical tower that dropped interminably and reached to the sky. She took a few steps along the walkway that hovered over the chasm. It extended itself for the next few paces. The curved walls of the tower were covered by bookshelves, and every bookshelf teemed with books that fidgeted and jostled to make their stories heard. All around her, Odessa was overcome by the din of declaiming, declaring, reciting, recanting, singing, intoning, and narrating. She put her hands to her ears. "What a racket! I can't hear myself think in here," she exclaimed to Trousers. The clerk appeared at the doorway and blew angrily on a shrill referee's whistle. The book's clamour died down.
"Keep quiet, you silly things. How will any of you get a chance to go home with this young woman if you all shout to her at once?"
The books erupted in exciting retelling of their stories, and the pea in the clerk's whistle bounced around until they calmed down again.
"Quiet!"
he bellowed.
"If I hear one more peep out of any of you, none of you will get half a chance to tell your story. Do I make myself clear?"
A few books mumbled sheepishly under their breath.
"Don't make me come in there and put you in the deep archive,"
he concluded.
"This is your last warning. Keep it down."
And with that, he slammed the door of the reading dome, leaving Odessa and Trousers in hushed silence. Odessa picked up Trousers and followed the walkway directly across the chasm to the far wall. The books kept their word, but as her hand brushed across their spines, they quivered with excitement. "Hush, there," Odessa said gently. "I'll give a fair hearing to as many of you as I can. There." A reading stool floated down to Odessa and placed itself at her feet. "Yes, that's a good idea, thank you," she said to the stool. "Glad to be of service, miss," it replied. Odessa coaxed a book from the shelf and sat down with it. "Hello there," she whispered and stroked its cover. "What's your story?"